Everyone, welcome to our collaborative team meeting for Lucas Smith. Thank you for taking the time to make this a priority. In our collaborative team, we draw from a diverse range of skills and knowledge. We've all worked to create a sense of equality and trust among the group, allowing for good communication and group commitment to finding the best goal-driven intervention plan for Lucas. Collaboration is shown through being committed to the group and to the reasons the group was formed, respecting others and their opinions, trusting the people you're working with, treating everyone in the group as an equal, acknowledging that each member of the group brings their own skills and knowledge, and ensuring strong communication through discussions, meeting plans, emails, ensuring everyone's well informed. Our combined knowledge is drawn from life experience, backgrounds in education, psychology, social science, and having a diagnosis of and living with autism. Kate, as Lucas's mum, you're a very important member of this group, and I know at times it's difficult to get to these meetings. Hopefully, setting them later in the afternoon assists you with this. Both Kate and I have had discussions with Lucas about being a member of this group and have tried to encourage him to attend, but at this point he would prefer to not be involved with the meetings. It is, however, important to remember that Lucas is a very important member of this group, and he has a right to be informed about what our decisions are around intervention strategies for him. Okay, so the aim of the meeting is to recap on the decision-making process that we have been through and contributed to as part of a team. Highlight how we came to a decision about the priority goal for Lucas. Discuss the intervention package we've designed and the evidence that supports our decision. Discuss factors that were taken into account in regards to client values and context. Highlight adaptations that need to be made. And discuss how we'll evaluate the intervention package is working. So here's our overarching plan so far. This is based on Spencer et al.'s model, and it's made up of goal setting, using best available evidence and taking into account client values. In the next few slides, we'll break this right down, section by section, and have a look at where we are now, including talking about the interventions that as a group we've chosen for Lucas. I've had some really interesting informative discussions with Lisa, Cindy, and also with Lucas over the last 4 weeks, and at the last meeting a week ago as a group, we formed a priority SMART goal to work towards with Lucas. This goal, as you will know, was based around the results of the questions about behaviour function completed by Lisa and Cindy, informal discussions with Lisa and Cindy, observations I conducted of Lucas in both mathematics and English, and also an informal interview with Lucas. So the goal that we've chosen to work on is to increase the time Lucas is on task to 20 minutes in a 40-minute lesson over a period of 4 weeks, measurable by anecdotal notes from teachers and a tick system if you reach your time goal in a lesson. This goal will be broken down into smaller achievable goals. So the goal was prioritised because of the results of the QABF, because of the discussions that were had with the maths and English teachers, because of the observations that were made of Lucas in maths and English, and also because of an informal interview with Lucas. So as you can see on the screen there, you can see the results from each one of these observations and tests. So to recap on the interview with Lucas, when I caught up with Lucas, we had a couple of games of Uno and he taught me a bit about his mechanical building program. Lucas seemed to like chatting one-on-one and showing me something he really loved to do and was very, very good at. Lucas was quite positive about school. He commented that he had a few good friends he felt understood him and that he had known since he started at St Christopher's in prep. Lucas told me about how he enjoys home economics and also the new coding subject. Lucas seems to have a good relationship, in particular with the home economics teacher, and said that he felt like out of all the teachers at school, she understood him the best. Lucas said that he gets frustrated when lessons move too fast and that sometimes he feels like his head gets busy if he isn't given the time to take the information in. Lucas mentioned that his hands hurt when he writes, and that his writing is really messy compared to the other students in his class. Lucas was concerned about not being able to remember directions. He said he gets worried about upsetting his teachers and that they always look like they're cross at him. So a quick recap on the discussions with Lucas's teacher. So in the first meeting and in the meeting last week, we discussed what was happening with Lucas in class. Lisa, you're his maths teacher and you felt you weren't supported by other school staff in implementing strategies to keep Lucas on task. You mentioned that you've used visual timetables with him and that you didn't feel this was working. You also mentioned that you had tried writing instructions down for Lucas on occasions, but this only worked 1 in 3. Cindy, you're Lucas's English teacher and year level coordinator, and you mentioned in the interview that Lucas is hard to engage with, even at the beginning of the lesson, and he tends to draw elaborate mechanical plans all over his worksheets. So as we know, this is resulting in very frustrated teachers, and sometimes the teachers even get a bit angry. But for Lucas, it means that he's becoming more disengaged and he's shutting down. And the only way to redirect this is to enable him to use the computer. The results of the questions about behaviour function. So what we know from the questions about behaviour completed by Lisa and Cindy is that they both showed high levels in the escape category and in the tangible category. So he's trying to escape from something and he's trying to gain access to something. We know from both Lucas and from the teachers that Lucas loves computers and that often, to keep him occupied in class, he's allowed to go on the computer. Therefore, perhaps this is rewarding and encouraging his off-task behaviour. Lucas has mentioned that he finds it hard to follow directions and to remember what to do in class. He's also said that writing hurts his hands and that he's very self-conscious about the untidiness of his writing. So this self-consciousness is coming up quite a bit in both this testing and also in other testing. Puaneo. Ever had one of those days where you just can't win? This is a bit how perhaps Lucas is feeling all the time, but also how teachers are feeling. So we're just looking at my observations of Lucas in maths and English. So I observed Lucas in maths and English, and I noted in maths that Lucas sat and listened to the beginning of the lesson. However, as soon as a worksheet was mentioned, he started to disengage. He put his head on the desk for about 3 minutes before starting to tear up the edges of the worksheet, and then he started drawing right over the top of the questions. While he was doing this, he was tapping his left hand and moving his body from side to side. In the English class, Lucas seemed more settled but kept trying to access the computer, and in the end it was evident that it was easier for Cindy to allow Lucas to have access to the computer because it stopped the distracting of others in the class. So when we're looking at putting together an intervention package, it's extremely important to take in the client values. So client values are represented, or they do represent, the deeply held values and ideals of individuals, their clients and their families and their communities. So in regards to Lucas and the Smith family, we needed to take into account that they were a very private family, that they live and work and go to school in a small country town, that they have other children to care for, their finances are quite tight, and that Lucas is very self-conscious and aware of appearing to be different. So here's a summary of what was taken into account to inform our decision about the chosen intervention. So we investigated different types of interventions for adolescents in a high school setting. We were very conscious that Lucas didn't want to be seen to be different. We took into account the behaviour analysis questionnaire and the discussions and the results of those. When looking at the interventions for adolescents, the chosen intervention showed good results in systematic reviews and in meta-analysis, and also in some individual studies. We looked at different individualised types of interventions we put in place within the classroom, and we're remembering that within the interview with Lucas, it was highlighted his love for computers and mechanical-based programs, and also to his desire to not stand out. We took into account the fact that Lucas doesn't remember directions very well and gets quite frustrated, and also that he feels bossed around at school. So taking ownership for his learning through choice may assist with this. So the chosen intervention package we chose for Lucas was antecedent intervention, which is an intervention that is put in place before the behaviour occurs. So these will include positive reinforcement, choice making, and written step-by-step directions. So adaptations need to be made for Lucas. So we need to always remember when we're putting an intervention program together that it needs to be individualised. So I really like this quote. There was a strong consensus that the very profile of individuals with ASD will require intervention components to be tailored to individuals. They further expressed fear in a one-size-fits-all approach to implementation. So when looking at putting in an intervention package together for Lucas, we needed to be aware that we had an overarching goal, but that we needed to start a little bit smaller. So we need to begin small, begin with English and maths, building up with Lucas and his on-task behaviour from 5 minutes to 20 minutes over a 4-week block, but only building up 5 minutes per week. Positive reinforcement needs to be taken into account, and it needed to be more than a verbal well done. So it could be an iPad. We had thoughts about perhaps there could be a Meccano building package. We also thought that an overarching project on building and designing something computer-based that Lucas could work on in each lesson after completing his goal time would be a good positive reinforcement. Choice taking and being able to choose how he does a task will be one of the interventions put in place. And again, positive reinforcement needs to be given when the goal is reached, so immediately after the goal is reached. When we're looking at putting an intervention package in place, it's really important that we look at fidelity. So fidelity of implementation means adherence to both the proper execution of the intervention package and the effective coordination of all the interventions as they're intended to be combined. So this is really important, that we put the same intervention in place in both maths and English, and that the same things are happening in both classes. So we'll reflect on this intervention package by having a tick system that the teachers can use to keep track of when the goal is being met. We will redo the behaviour questionnaire and observation in 4 weeks' time. We'll organise for Lucas to have a weekly catch-up with a trusted teacher of his choice, and at the moment it's seeming like perhaps the home ec teacher might be a good choice for that. And we'll plan to have a meeting in 2 weeks' time to touch base with teachers that are putting the intervention package in place. So our next meeting is Monday the 18th of September here at St Christopher's, same room, conference room 2. The meeting will be at 5:15. This is to allow time for everyone to be able to make the meeting. If there is an instance where you can't get to one of the meetings, I can send any of the information through to you and we can speak over the phone at any time that suits both of us. So thank you very much for making the time to come to the meeting today, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this intervention package being put in place and implemented, and it'd be great to catch up in 2 weeks' time and see how we're going. Thank you very much.